unrecognized states and dependencies. I hope you enjoy. Historic, unrecognized, or partially recognized states with de facto control over their territory. Africa. The total number of countries in the African continent varies due to the instability throughout the region. See the list of sovereign states and dependent territories in Africa article for a current list. Great instability was created by graft underleaders in West Africa. Many leaders marginalized ethnic groups and fanned ethnic conflicts, some of which had been exacerbated or even created by colonial rule for political gain. In many countries, the military was perceived as being the only group that could effectively maintain order, and it ruled many nations in Africa during the 1970s and early 1980s. During the period from the early 1960s to the late 1980s, Africa had more than 70 coups and 13 presidential assassinations. Border and territorial disputes were also common, with the European-imposed borders of many nations being widely contested through armed conflicts. A variety of other causes have been blamed for Africa's political instability, including Cold War conflicts between the United States and the Soviet Union, over-reliance on foreign aid, as well as the policies of the International Monetary Fund. When a country became independent for the first time, it would often align itself with one of the two superpowers in order to get support. Many countries in northern Africa received Soviet military aid, while many in central and southern Africa were supported by the United States, France, or both. The 1970s saw an escalation as newly independent Angola and Mozambique aligned themselves with the Soviet Union, and the West and South Africa sought to contain Soviet influence by funding insurgency movements. There was a major famine in Ethiopia when hundreds of thousands of people starved. Some claimed that Marxist/Soviet policies made the situation worse. The most devastating military conflict in modern independent Africa has been the Second Congo War. This conflict and its aftermath have killed an estimated 5.5 million people. Since 2003, there has been an ongoing conflict in Darfur, which has become a humanitarian disaster. Another notable tragic event is the 1994 Rwandan genocide, in which an estimated 800,000 people were murdered. AIDS in post-colonial Africa has also been a prevalent issue. In the 21st century, however, the number of armed conflicts in Africa has steadily declined. For instance, the civil war in Angola came to an end in 2002 after nearly 30 years. The improved stability and economic reforms have led to a great increase in foreign investment into many African nations, mainly from China, which has spurred quick economic growth in many countries, seemingly ending decades of stagnation and decline. Several African economies were among the world's fastest growing as of 2011, and that growth continues through 2019. A significant part of this growth can also be attributed to the facilitated diffusion of information technologies, and specifically the mobile phone. 18th and 19th centuries. Shilluk Kingdom. 15th century to 1861. It is now part of Sudan. Nawandwe, 1780 to 1825, and the Mathawa Paramountcy, from 1780 to 1817, are now part of South Africa. Republic of Swellendam, 1795, now part of South Africa. A republic declared in revolt against the Dutch East India Company. It lasted 3 months before being reincorporated into the Cape Colony. Graafrenet, 1795, now part of South Africa. Formed in rebellion to Dutch East India Company, it took 2 years to be incorporated into the Cape Colony, though this time under British rule. Islands of Refreshment, also known as Tristan da Cunha, 1811 to 1816. It is now a British overseas territory. Declared by American whaler Jonathan Lambert and 4 others, who were the first permanent inhabitants of the modern-day Tristan da Cunha Islands in the South Atlantic. Lambert declared himself the sovereign of the islands, annexed in 1816 by the Cape Colony under the United Kingdom to prevent France from attaining the islands. Griqualand West, 1813, now part of South Africa. Enjoyed facto independence since the founding of Creekwood Town in 1813. Creekwood West eventually proclaimed itself a British colony in 1873. It did not gain recognition by Britain nor the neighboring Cape Colony and was annexed in 1880. Potchefstroom Republic, 1830, now part of South Africa. A republic that existed only for a couple of months before joining the Windberg Republic. It was effectively a city-state. The Windberg Republic, 1836, now part of South Africa. Established on land on the Vet and Val rivers, donated to the four trekkers by Badung Chief Makwana in 1836 in exchange for protection from neighboring Basotho tribes. Joined in union with the newly established Potchefstroom Republic in 1838 to form the Republic of Windberg Potchefstroom. Republic of Windberg Potchefstroom, 1838, now part of South Africa. Formed from the union of Potchefstroom Republic and the Windberg Republic in 1838. The nation lasted until Potchefstroom left the union to join with Pietermaritzburg. Natalia Republic, 1839, now part of South Africa. Established in 1839 by local Afrikaans-speaking voortrekkers after the Battle of Blood River, this Boer Republic lasted for 4 years before being annexed by British troops under George Napier. Andreas Oringstad Republic, 1845, now part of South Africa. A fort was established by a group of voortrekkers under the leadership of Andreas Hendrik Potgieter with the help of Dutch merchant Gregorius Orig. The settlers arrived in 1845 and were decimated by malaria. Forced to abandon the area, the Republic was officially abandoned in 1849. Liberia, 1847 to 1862, now independent. A collection of African American settlements in West Africa, sponsored by the American Colonization Society. The purpose of Liberia was to repatriate freed slaves back to Africa from the United States. The U.S. government refused to recognize Liberia's independence until 1862, during the American Civil War. Republic of Maryland, 1854 to 1857, now part of Liberia. An African-American settlement in West Africa, whose independence was unrecognized by the United States. It joined the also unrecognized Liberia in 1857 in reaction to a native insurgency. Utrecht Republic, 1854, now part of South Africa. A republic proclaimed by Andreas Theodorus Spies following a land purchase from the King of Zulu Mabande. It joined with the Lydenburg Republic in 1858. Lydenburg Republic, 1856, now part of South Africa. A Boer Republic, which was created following the dissolution of the Andreas Oringstad Republic. Eventually, this nation expanded with the inclusion of the Utrecht Republic in 1858. The Republic lasted until 1860 when it was incorporated into the South African Republic. Zoutpansberg Republic, 1857, now part of South Africa. A small Boer Republic that joined with the South African Republic in 1864. The white settlers in Zoutpansberg had for many years a reputation of lawlessness and were later regarded as typical backveld Boers. Zoutpansberg contained a larger native population than any other region of the Transvaal. Sultanate of Utatirra, 1860 to 1887, now part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, founded by infamous slave trader Tipu Tip. Griqualand West, 1861, now part of South Africa, founded by Adam Cook III as a final resting place for Griqua people. The state suffered from a secret deal signed between the British Empire and Orange Free State, causing unceasing instability. Although the reasons for its annexation are still debated, it was eventually integrated with the Cape Colony in 1880. Klipdrift Republic, 1870, now part of South Africa. A republic proclaimed during a dispute over diamond mines near what would become Griqualand West. Republic of Stellaland, 1882, now part of South Africa. A Boer Republic which existed briefly before its union with its neighboring Boer Republic, the state of Goshen. Free Republic of Rehoboth, 1872 to 1990, now part of Namibia. The pastoral community of mixed-race descendant who left the British-ruled Cape Colony in 1868 and settled in a territory on a high plateau between the Namib and Kalahari Desert. Africans as the Vader-like wet paternal laws, which still continues to govern the internal affairs of the bastard community into the 21st century. Since the independence of Namibia in 1990, the new state confiscated all of their territory without compensation. Goshen, 1882, now part of South Africa. A Boer republic which merged with the Republic of Stellaland to form the United States of Stellaland in 1883. United States of Stellaland, 1883, now part of South Africa. A Boer republic which created from the union of neighboring Republic of Stellaland and State of Goshen. The republic lasted until it became a protectorate of the South African Republic on 10th September 1884, only to be annexed 6 days later. Nieuwe Republiek, 1884 to 1888, now part of South Africa. Created on 16th August of 1884 with land donated by the Zulus through a treaty. The territory was part of the old Boer Republic of Natalia. The republic enjoyed independence until it was annexed by the South African Republic by its own request. Collinsland, 1884 to 1885, now part of Guinea. Disputed German colony in modern-day Guinea. The colony was initiated by the German merchant Frederick Colin with limited support from the German government, conceded to France, which had already claimed the area, in exchange for minor territories in other parts of Africa and respect for Colin's commercial rights in the territory. Republic of Legions Rust, 1884 to 1887, now part of Namibia, was a short-lived Boer republic in the area of present-day Namibia, later joined German Southwest Africa. Mahdist State, 1885 to 1899, now part of Sudan. Islamic State established during the Mahdist War by rebels. The rebellion failed and the state was dissolved. Klein Vrystaat, 1886, now part of South Africa. A Boer republic which declared its independence from lands formerly controlled by the Swazi king Mswati II. It was eventually incorporated into the South African Republic in 1891 at its own request. New Moscow, 1889, now part of Djibouti. Russian colonies set up by Cossacks in East Africa. The colony was unsanctioned by the Russian government. The territory of New Moscow was under the ostensible rule of French Somaliland, who forced the colonists to surrender and deported them back to Russia. Dervish State, 1895 to 1920, now part of Somaliland and Ethiopia. A state in Sydnago, wherein Dirai Gir was king and his emir Mohammed Abdullah Hassan launched an armed resistance against colonial powers, specifically the United Kingdom, Italy, and Ethiopia in Somalia. It was eventually defeated in 1920 by the British and Italians. 20th and 21st centuries. Empire of the Sahara, 1903 to 1908, now part of Morocco. A self-proclaimed monarchy declared by wealthy Frenchman Jacques Labadie, who wished to establish an imperial territory in Cape Juby. Labadie was backed by as many as 400 mercenaries and 16 cannons. Labadie later relocated his court to the Savoy Hotel in London. His claim was recognized by no nation. Zayan Confederation, 1914 to 1921, now part of Morocco. A confederation of Berber tribesmen in the interior of Morocco, which resisted French conquest in the Middle Atlas Mountains for several years. The Confederacy was supported by the Central Powers following the outbreak of the First World War and was only subdued after the Treaty of Versailles. South African Republic, 1914 to 1915, now part of South Africa. A provisional government set up in the Marids Rebellion of the First World War. It was an attempt by Boer troops to revive the South African Republic, which had been annexed into the British Empire 12 years prior at the conclusion of the Second Boer War. The mutiny was put down in under 6 months by the South African government. Sultanate of Darfur, 1915 to 1916, now part of Sudan. A protectorate of Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, the Sultan Ali Dinar renounced his allegiance to the British Empire in support of the Ottoman Empire after their entry into the First World War against Britain. The rebellion was put down in the 1960 Anglo-Egyptian Darfur expedition. Tunisia, 1915 to 1917, 1923 to during the Kyosin Revolt fought against Italian colonization in 3 stages. The Senesi campaign of the First World War, with support from the Central Powers, especially the Ottoman Empire, which previously ruled the area. The Second Italo-Senesi War, also known as the pacification of Libya, in which brutal war crimes took place, and the North African campaign of the Second World War, specifically the Western Desert Campaign. Tripolitanian Republic, 1918 to 1923, now part of Libya. A republic proclaimed following the Paris Peace Conference. It disintegrated sometime in 1923 and was annexed into Italian Tripolitania. Republic of the Rif, 1921 to 1926, now part of Morocco. An independent Berber republic declared following a rebellion against Spanish rule within the Rif region of northern Morocco. The republic was made up of a confederation of many Berber tribes defeated by Spain with French military assistance in the protracted Rif War. Macha Oromo Confederation, 1936, now part of Ethiopia. Rump Oromo state in western Ethiopia that was proclaimed following Italian victory in the Second Italo-Ethiopian War. Requested to be accepted as a British Mandate territory to avoid annexation into the Italian Empire, but was recognized by no country and was occupied by the Italian army within the year. Ethiopian Empire, 1937 to 1941, now part of Ethiopia. Occupied by Italy in the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, despite lobbying by Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie from exile, only 6 nations did not recognize Italy's control over Ethiopia by 1937, which was China, New Zealand, the Soviet Union, the Republic of Spain, Mexico, and the United States. During the East African campaign of the Second World War, the Allies recognized Selassie and restored Ethiopia's full independence. Sultanate of Msabadi, 1959, now part of Tanzania. Latham Leslie Moore, a retired civil servant, declared the secession of the Sultanate Msabadi from the then colony of Tanganyika. The secession was suppressed in 1962 by Tanzanian government troops. Kingdom of Sanwe, 1959 to 1970, now part of the Ivory Coast. Following self-government in the Ivory Coast, the traditional Kingdom of Sanwe attempted secession from the Republic several times during the early decades of decolonization. In 1960, the King of Sanwe even formed an unrecognized government in exile in Ghana. The movement was combated by President Felix Houphouët-Boigny, partially with the aid of the French armed forces. State of Katanga, 1960 to 1963, now part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Declared secession during the Congo Crisis, controlled the state of the same name within the former Belgian Congo after decolonization. Although not recognized by any other country, Katanga received considerable financial, military, and political support from Belgium, the Central African Federation, and Portugal. Lobbyists on behalf of Katanga were also unsuccessfully attempted to bribe the government of Costa Rica in return for diplomatic recognition. South Kasai, 1960 to 1962, now part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Declared succession during the Congo Crisis. Unlike Katanga, South Kasai did not fully secede from the Congo, instead seeking full autonomy. Its autonomy, which was not recognized by any nation, but it received some aid from foreign powers, especially Belgium. The official name of the country was the mining state of South Kasai. Kingdom of Rwenzururu, 1962 to 1982, now part of Uganda. A secessionist movement, that began just before decolonization in Uganda and continued for 20 years. Within colonial Uganda, several kingdoms were allowed to continue their existence as subnational entities with some autonomy. The people of the Rwenzururu region demanded separation from the Toru kingdom as their own monarchy, but were denied by the colonial government. The Rwenzururu kingdom declared its independence 3 months before Uganda's independence. After 2 decades of conflict, Rwenzururu became an autonomous kingdom within Uganda. Kel 1977, now part of Algeria. A Tuareg confederation inhabiting the Hagar Mountains in Algeria. The confederation is believed to have been founded by the Tuareg matriarch Tin Hanan, whose monumental tomb is located in Abalessa. The official establishment is dated to around 1750. It has been largely defunct since 1977, when it was terminated by the Algerian government. People's Republic of Zanzibar, 1964, now part of Tanzania. Following the 17th January 1964 coup, which deposed the Sultan of Zanzibar, the revolutionary group purporting to represent the island's black majority proclaimed a People's Republic of Zanzibar in Pemba. It immediately made an offer of union with the government of Tanganyika. Rhodesia, 1965 to 1979, and Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, 1979, now Zimbabwe. Unilateral declaration of independence in November 1965. It did not receive official recognition from any state. It had a trading relationship with apartheid South Africa, which did not formally recognize Rhodesia to preserve its fragile position with other nations, and did not apply UN sanctions against the Republic. Portugal also maintained informal relations with the Carnation Revolution of 1974. State received full international recognition after signing the Lancaster House Agreement in 1979 and became, on 18 April 1980, the Independent Republic of Zimbabwe. Biafra, 1967 to 1970, now part of Nigeria. Majority Igbo state, which seceded from post-independence Nigeria due to ethnic divisions, beginning the Nigerian Civil War, controlled the territory in eastern Nigeria, recognized by 5 states: Gabon, Haiti, Ivory Coast, Tanzania, and Zambia. Republic of Benin, 1967, now part of Nigeria. Occupied by Biafra in August, later given independence in September as a puppet state, retaken by the Nigerian army one day after the declaration of independence. South Sudan Provisional Government, 1967 to 1969, now part of South Sudan. An African insurgency formed mostly from the Anyanya movement during the First Sudanese Civil War, in rebellion against the predominantly Muslim Arabic-speaking Sudanese government. The separatist movement was rife with political wrangling and ethnic tensions within its own ranks. The SSPG collapsed in 1969 and was reformed into the Nile Provisional Government. Nile Provisional Government, or the Nile Republic, 1969 to 1970, now part of South Sudan. Formed out of the SSPG as an attempt to rebrand the nation from South Sudan to the Nile Republic. Collapsed after 1 year due to a coup. Following this, most of the separatists agreed to the 1972 Addis Ababa Agreement, in which most of Anyanya agreed to recognize the Sudanese government in return for autonomy, ending the First Sudanese Civil War. Calcutta Republic, 1970 to 1977, now part of Nigeria. Micronation created by political activist Fela Kuti in defiance of the Nigerian military junta, burned to the ground by the Nigerian armed forces in 1977. Republic of Martiazo, 1972, now part of Burundi. A state declared by Hutu separatists inside the mountainous Fuzigo commune between the Makamba and Lake Nyanza, lasted for little over a week. Cabinda, 1975, now part of Angola. Cabinda was a Portuguese protectorate known as the Portuguese Congo. During the Portuguese colonial war period, the Front for the Liberation of the Enclave of Cabinda, FLEC, fought for the independence of Cabinda from the Portuguese. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. The independence was proclaimed on the 1st of August 1975, after the Angolan independence came in effect in November 1975. Cabinda was invaded by forces of the Popular Movement of the Liberation of Angola, MPLA, with support of troops from Cuba. Sultanate of Osa, 1975 to 1991, now part of Ethiopia. Subnational monarchy in Ethiopia that represented the Afar people. When the Derg regime took power over Ethiopia in 1975, Sultan Almira Ayonfair returned to Ethiopia in 1991 after the fall of the Derg. Sisgai, 1972 to 1994, Transgai, 1976 to 1994, and Venda, 1979 to 1994. Now part of South Africa. Former apartheid Bantustan homelands formed and recognized only by each other and South Africa. Botswana, 1977 to 1994. Now part of South Africa. Former apartheid Bantustan homeland formed by South Africa and recognized only by the apartheid regime and other Bantustans. Casamance, 1982 to 2014. Now part of Senegal. A mostly defunct independence movement fought in the Casamance conflict centered in the Casamance region of southern Senegal. The conflict largely stemmed from an ethnic divide between the more prosperous Wolof people of the northern Senegal, who make up a plurality of the nation's overall population, and the less prosperous ethnicities of southern Senegal, primarily the Jola. The conflict lasted for over 30 years, with varying levels and stages of violence. In 2014, most separatist factions agreed to a ceasefire with the Senegalese government. Mohili, 1997 to 1998, now part of Comoros. Seceded in 1997 but quietly rejoined the next year. Anjouan, 1997 to 2008, now part of the Comoros. Joined with Comoros, then seceded twice to gain independence. Anjouan rejoined Comoros after talks during the first secession. After the second event, the secessionist government was forcibly removed. Caprivi, 1999, now part of Namibia. Secessionist movement that waged an insurrection in 1999 for control of the Caprivi Strip. The Caprivi Strip has no uniform ethnic group and has been subject to ethnic division, especially between the Mafwe majority group in the Caprivi Strip and the Avambo majority group in Namibia. Jubaland, 1998 to 2001, now part of Somalia. Declared independent during the Somali Civil War, led by General Mohammed Said Hersi Morgan, the former Somali Minister of Defense and son-in-law of Siad Barre, the previous military dictator of Somalia. Morgan was ousted by the Allied Somali forces the next year, which allied with the transitional federal government in 2001. Puntland, 1994 to 2004, now part of Somalia, declared its own autonomy during the Somali Civil War. It did not seek outright independence, but rather recognition of its status as an autonomous state, reconciled with the government of Somalia with the signing of the Transitional Federal Charter in 2004. Mahakir, 2007 to 2009. Now part of Somalia. Short-lived territory on the border between the Puntland state of Somalia and Somaliland, and was proclaimed as a state independent of both. Quickly it subsumed into Puntland. Republic of Azania, 2011 to 2013. Republic which claimed sovereignty over the Somali state of Jubaland, following the capture of most Jubaland by the Islamic militant group Al-Shabaab. Kenya launched a counter-offensive and aided and setting up the republic from the former Jubaland administration. Action was condemned by Somalia. Azania reformed back into the Jubaland state of Somalia in 2013. Democratic Republic of Benghazi, 2006 to 2009, now part of Cameroon. Small secessionist movement led by the Benghazi Movement for Self-Determination, or the BAMOSD. The movement began during the transfer of the disputed Benghazi territory from Nigeria to Cameroon, with local leaders who were against the transfer declaring independence. By 2009, Cameroon had assumed complete control over Benghazi. Libyan Arab Jamahiriya, 2011, now part of Libya. Many countries began to withdraw recognition of the Libyan Arab Jamahiriya as the rightful government of Libya from the early stages of the First Libyan Civil War in February 2011, and shifted recognition to the National Transitional Council, Azawad, 2012, now part of Mali. Controlled territory in northern Mali, it was unrecognized by any state. Kasumu State, 2012 to 2017, now part of Somaliland. Declared an autonomous state in 2012, ceased to function by 2015, and was reincorporated into Somaliland by 2017. Logone, 2015 to 2021, now an insurgency in the Central African Republic. Also known as Dar al-Kuti, was a partially realized self-declared autonomous region and proto-state internationally recognized as part of the Central African Republic. It was reformed by the Muslim rebel movement Popular Front of the Rebirth of Central African Republic, FPRC, with support of other armed groups. On 14th December 2015, on 10th April 2021, Cagabandoro was recaptured by government forces. Thank you for listening. This is my first attempt at ASMR, so any feedback is welcome.